Welcome back. The city of Baltimore is on edge tonight. One of the arresting policemen in the death of Freddie Gray in the back of a police van. Remember that? Well, the police officer has been found innocent. Officer Ed Nero faced second-degree assault, reckless endangerment, and 2 counts of misconduct. Nero acquitted by Baltimore City Circuit Court Judge Barry Williams, who handed down his verdict this morning. News of Nero's verdict sparked roars of outrage outside the court.
This is not right. That boy's back got broke. He's dead. If something happened to my son, I'll put myself in that mother's shoe and that family's shoe. That is not right. That verdict is not correct. He should have gotten something. Somebody got to be responsible for that murder.
Well, the mayor of Baltimore called for calm in a statement which read in part, "Now that the criminal case has come to an end, Officer Nero will face an administrative review by the police department. We once again ask the citizens to be patient. In the case of any disturbance in the city, we are prepared to respond." The family attorney for the Gray family praised the judge for his courage under extremely stressful conditions, and he went on to say this: "Only the people who sat through this trial and heard all of the evidence have a right to have an opinion about whether his opinion was fair and whether or not it was warranted under the circumstances." So far, the pleas for calm seem to be prevailing. With me to discuss the case is Thomas Ruskin. He's the former investigator with the NYPD. Also here in studio is Eric Richmond. He's a trial attorney. And out of Florida studios, we are joined by Tom Whatley. He's a retired police detective. All right, so I'm going to start off with you there, handsome. I'm not laughing that you're not handsome.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, right. But so we were commenting on my beard. We were commenting on my beard beforehand. That's why I'm coming with that. Anyway, that being said, you think Baltimore is going to keep itself at bay, or are we going to see fires going on in the days to come?
I think if you let the police department do what the police officers are trained to do, which they wanted to do the night that Baltimore burned and rioting took place, I think it'll remain calm. I think that the family attorney for the Grays came out with a very intelligent, well-articulated statement calling for calm and saying that no one has a right to an opinion unless you sat through the trial. I think that that was a very, very bold statement for a family attorney or civil attorney to do.
Yeah, but Tom, do we have the ability in Baltimore to listen to the attorney and say, "Oh, okay, he says not to burn down this next CVS I see"? I mean, do you agree? Are we going to see things burning down, or are we going to see things stay calm and move on?
Well, we can wish for one thing and see another. You certainly have seen some displeasure amongst the groups around the courthouse today. I'm not sure what they want in this, because we had an African-American judge who was a former civil rights attorney. We had a black prosecutor. The rule of law has spoken in this case, so I'm just not quite sure what they're looking for. And of course, we have a civil attorney on the panel tonight, so perhaps maybe that's a direction they could take. But the people, meaning the judge, has spoken.
Is that the next direction we're going to see?
Well, the civil case has already been settled with the city, but I think that everyone's right. I think there's going to be calm tonight, because I think people understand that this officer was the most distant to what happened that day. There are 6 officers that were all charged, and there's 6 separate trials, and there's a whole bunch of different criminal charges against each one of them. This one came in after the arrest. He helped a bunch of other officers put Freddie Gray into the van, so his connection was very far from the start. Actually, Dershowitz came on Newsmax about a year ago and said that this prosecution against this officer was a version of crowd control. This was a way to appease people from the start, at least against this officer. So it might have worked in the sense that it made people take a step back and realize that this officer really wasn't instrumental. Whatever you think about the other officer's conduct, this guy had the least amount of contact. And that's why it's really unfortunate for this prosecutor, time-wise, because to have the first case, or really the second case now, end in this kind of acquittal doesn't look good. And then the other defense lawyers might start using this acquittal for leverage, because they've all been overcharged as well. And by the way, when you said handsome before, I thought you were talking.
Yeah, it's a blanket statement. I think everybody on this television show is just, I mean, downright very handsome.
All agree.
I mean, yeah. I mean, look, you go against Steve.
Forgot about it.
Yeah, I mean, you got O'Reilly, you got Hannity, you got Lynch. I get the best guests, both, verbally, physically, the whole thing.
But when we talk about the prosecutor, you wonder, did the prosecutor indict 6 cops because 6 cops just happened to be there, and it was politics at the time and political pressure, and basically I want to get reelected as a prosecutor, or was it because the evidence was there? And I would lean towards the latter and say the evidence wasn't there. That the prosecutor basically brought these charges just to appease the public and for political pressure.
For this officer, but for the other officers,
for 2 or 3 of the other officers.
Yeah, the real main case is going to be against Goodson, and he's the driver of the van. And he's been charged with the most serious crimes.
But that's
with
the only guy you
murder.
have a potential case against.
Yeah.
The other officers basically just helped load Freddie Gray in the back of a van, and maybe they should have listened to, administrative procedures of the police department and seatbelted them in. But that's not criminal.
There were other officers that might have been involved. There might have been other officers. I'm sorry to interrupt.
Okay, Tom, Florida, go ahead.
Dennis, the problem I have with this case is I have never seen, in my almost 30 years of being involved in law enforcement, a district attorney and an OIS officer-involved shooting in less than 24 hours sit on the courthouse steps and read the charges like this. They have a lot of stuff they have to go through. They say they paralleled the investigation. I say, because it was during the disturbances within the city of Baltimore, this was to stop the rioting, and they charged all 6 officers. This was dereliction in her duty. She should not be a prosecutor. It's clearly showing now with the end result.
When you take a look at the reaction so far, which is quiet, and we go forward and we say that the next guy is also acquitted, you think this is what you're going to see, or do you think you're eventually going to see Baltimore on fire again?
I would hope that the police department could put down any riot that attempted to start.
But they couldn't do it last time.
But no, they were told by the mayor to stand down and let happen what happened that night. The only person who really is criminally liable for something that happened out of this whole thing is the mayor.
I agree.
Because you want to know something? As a mayor, you have a responsibility to the citizens and the people who work in your city and own businesses to protect those. You think that would happen in New York City? Never on anyone's watch. We experienced that one time in Crown Heights. We learned from our lessons of letting it go one night, and we put it down the next 2 nights, and that was Dave Dinkins as mayor.
And by the way, just because you're dealing with hypotheticals, if she had sent police out in mass and just cracked down on everyone, you're just assuming that everything would have just been quiet after that?
No, you would have had rioting, but you would have arrested those people for rioting, and you would have put them in jail where they should have been. If I own a business, I own a CVS, and you're coming into my business and you're destroying my business and stealing my property, then those people should be in jail.
And that's what the police are. I just don't know if in reality that could have happened. When you talk about the size of the crowd.
Well, you know what, Counselor, some of us had actually partaken in civil disturbances and worn the field force gear. We know how that works. We know that the direction comes from not the police chief, but his bosses or her boss, typically the city manager or the city mayor. So they gave directives on what to do.
Law enforcement, let's say I've been in a riot. Do I have more credibility then?
But listen, I don't have any practicability on civil law, but I'm not going to tell you what should have been done in a civil case in this matter. I don't think they should have settled the civil case until the criminal trial was over, but I'm not a civil attorney, nor are you a police officer that puts on battle gear that has to go out there and stop people from burning buildings.
Absolutely, you're right, and I'm not in any way trying to minimize what the police do. I'm just saying you're dealing with a hypothetical. The police work is not perfect.
But, Counselor, I will tell you this. As someone who lived through Crown Heights and Washington Heights and the riots in New York City, I will tell you that we had a mayor, Dave Dinkins, who told the police department to stand down that night, and that Bill Lynch, the deputy mayor, would go out and deal with the community and quiet it down. And after 2.5 days of unrest in Crown Heights, Bill Lynch and Mayor Dinkins gave the police commissioner, at the time, Ray Kelly, permission to go in, and within 24 hours, the New York City Police Department took back the streets of Crown Heights, stopped any rioting or looting that was happening, and made peace to the city at that time. We learned from that, and when Washington Heights happened, it was put down within an hour.
Is crowd control a science?
It's not a science, but it is a learned technique. And New York City and other cities practice this.
You'd
and
think it'd be learned by now.
Well, you want to know something? Each incident that happens around this country is a very unique incident. And you're only as good as the police department that's patrolling you. But I will tell you, from watching the films that night in Baltimore, and you see officers at the ready, down a street, watching cars being burnt and people being stopped, I will tell you that those officers could have taken back that intersection probably within 5 to 10 minutes. That's what they're trained to do. That's
Dennis,
what Tom and I were trained to
Dennis,
do as officers.
Go ahead, Tom. Go ahead.
Guys, I can tell you, when you come down the street with a field force, you've got civil disturbance, Molotov cocktails being thrown, windows being broken out, furniture being taken, and your field force gets out there. What happens is it's called a war drum beat. You have the shields, you have the sticks, and you pound, and you do it in cadence, and you actually march in cadence, stomping the foot. That's a very deafening noise in a downtown area. What happens is 90% of the people that are there for the show usually leave. Then you have your 10% that still want to throw rocks and bottles at the cops. If you get rid of 90% of the people, your problem's almost solved. If you do nothing and you stand down, those 90% of the people become participants within the destruction of that city. And that's what happened under the tutelage of the mayor giving the directions.
I mean, yeah, you could have cracked down on everybody there, like you said, 90%. And then you have to deal with the federal civil rights investigation again.
So be it. So be it. But the city won't burn.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, watching that city burn was, it was very frustrating, not just because of the reason why it was burning, but the fact that it was just allowed to burn. And I mean, I don't know. You know what? I just like to blame everything on President Barack Hussein Obama. I just think he has set the tone of where we are, and that's just the way.
I knew that was coming.
I'm going to start rioting in the studio. I'm going to start flipping stuff up to see if these cops will take me down. Come on, Tom. He's ready.
10 seconds.
You, we will.
I got 10
it's the mayor. The mayor and leadership leads this country, leads the
100%.
city. It's important that the mayor set the tone.
All right, guys, I didn't even have to speak during that. It was a great block. I got my break. We'll be back.